Today on Rainmakers, we're joined by Shawn Ellis, someone whose life journey is a powerful testimony of how God patiently and persistently calls us, even when we're not always listening. From entrepreneurship to unexpected ministries, Shawn's story is full of turning points, divine appointments, and leaps of faith. We'll walk through how a consultant became a spiritual leader and what happens when you finally say yes to God's call. Welcome, Shawn. It's a pleasure to have you on this show.
I'm so glad to be here, Paul.
So, take us back to the beginning. What were your dreams as a young man?
Well, as a young man, I was the first generation Canadian of immigrant parents.
Hmm.
And so, in a sense, I didn't have a vision because my parents made it clear for me. You're
Right.
going to get some school and you're going to do well in life, better than us.
Right.
And so I took that to heart and I bared down. I was a good kid. I studied well. Got good grades. And eventually I got into university. But I like to say God always calls us. So throughout that journey,
Hmm.
whether I was in high school, especially when I was especially in university, people would come up to me, "Hey, Shawn, I read this in the Bible. What do you think?" Now, at this time in my life, when I was, let's say, my early teens, my mom had become a Seventh day Adventist.
Okay.
But she gave us, the kids, the option. You could come to church with me or you could stay home.
Mm.
In fact, I got to go back even a little bit further because I started going to church with her the day she accepted Jesus.
Wow. Wow.
Now, here's where it gets interesting.
Hmm.
And this is where I believe God kept calling me. When the pastor made the altar call, I went down with my mom. And I was younger at that time, maybe 10.
Yeah.
And I said I wanted to get baptized as well. And the elders at the time, they were well meaning,
Mm.
but they said, you're too young. And they turned me away.
Wow.
And that actually had a big impact on my later ministry because when I work with kids,
Yeah.
I really look for that sense of their calling by God.
Hmm.
But at that time, I'm thinking, hey, if God don't want me, I don't need God.
Wow.
And so when my mom got to that point saying, look, you can come to church with me or you can stay home,
Yeah.
I decided to stay home because, on Saturdays, that's when all the best cartoons were, right? So I stayed home, but God calls people
Yeah.
no matter whether or not they hear or not. And in my situation, I would have people asking me scriptural questions. And I'd be like, why are you asking me?
Mm.
I've never said I go to church. I've never said I was a Christian, but I would engage in the conversations. And then when I got to university, again, that became more intense. I would run into people that
Really?
would want to share the Bible with me. Not that they were trying to convert me, they just saw things in it that they couldn't understand. And for some, we're going to call it coincidence,
Right.
they would come to me and say, "What do you think?"
Yeah.
So it got me to the point where I'm like, if all these people are going to ask me these biblical questions, I should probably know something about the Bible.
Wow. I call those God instances,
Yes.
instead of coincidences, because God's
Yeah.
doing something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so I started reading the Bible.
Right.
I read it from cover to cover. I read it twice. And I started to see things, and it actually started to change me.
Mm.
I mean, I was never like a bad person, but I found more peace, more centeredness, more sense of connection to God, even though I didn't know who God was.
Right.
And I wasn't even looking to convert, as what people would say.
Mm.
But I just found I was really more connected to him and I started to make sense of the word. And so people would still ask me questions, but now I would know, okay, this is really what the Bible says. Let's go through it together. I'm doing little mini Bible studies. I'm going to call it mini studies
Yeah.
because I didn't know that much.
Right.
Enough to say, I think that's not right. Here's where it is. And as I went on, I graduated. I graduated with a degree in toxicology.
Hmm.
My whole vision, my personal vision, echoing what my parents said, is got to find a good job.
Hmm.
You got
Hmm.
to do well. And so my vision was to become a consultant and eventually start my own consulting company.
Okay.
So I worked with a laboratory, a consulting laboratory. We would do all this interesting work. And then eventually I decided to go out on my own and start my own environmental consulting company.
Mhm.
It's on indoor air quality. And indoor air quality is very interesting because at the time people would wasn't even sure what if that was a thing.
Right,
But
right.
I saw and I believe God led that I should go into that area. And I started this consulting company. And again, God used that to start to call me in different ways.
Mm,
So here I am, Mr. Technical. I'd walk in and we'd be talking about technical stuff. And then after a while, a person would say, Shawn, your demeanor, you should be a pastor. And I'm thinking, what is this? I'm here trying to make some money,
right.
move along in my business.
Yeah.
I remember going to, because sometimes I'd be asked by lawyers to do consulting in residences.
Mhm.
There's problems and we need to get an assessment. So you'd meet a lot of people. And I'll never forget one person that, as they were going through showing me their residence and the issues involved, and I'm thinking, okay, these are the kind of tests I'm going to have to do and all this kind of stuff. The person started telling me about their life story, and I started talking with them. I'm just being polite. I
Yeah.
was taught by my parents to be polite. But in the back of my head, as they're talking, I'm just thinking what I got to do. After a while, I got drawn into their story. We sat down, we started talking, and I was giving them some advice. I was thinking about things I'd read in the Bible about that, but I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Like that was still deep in me, which is, Shawn, you kind of know the Bible, but don't make God a fool and
Yeah.
say stuff. And the person just said to me, I know you are probably a very professional person in your field, but if you're ever thinking of something, you should be a pastor.
Really.
And
Wow.
and again, there's a saying in the Caribbean,
Mhm.
hard ears, meaning that you're being told something, but your ears are so hard it's not going in.
Right. Right.
God was trying to call me, and I just wasn't picking up on it.
Mhm.
Later on, I now have a house, I have a business, I have kids, things are going well.
Mhm.
One of my cousins, who's a Seventh day Adventist, interesting story, little sidebar there. My mom came to the Adventist church because her brother, who came to Canada first, he actually watched a program called It Is Written.
Wow.
And he was so inspired by what was being said, he signed up for Bible studies. He ended up getting baptized, and then he introduced my mom into it. So, anyway,
Mhm.
his son said, Shawn, you know, there's this new church called Kanisa Fellowship, and it's not far from you.
Mhm.
You might want to come. It's a lot of young people. So I'm like, sure. I mean, I still knew enough that I realized I didn't know enough about God.
Yeah.
And I knew enough to know that I needed to have God in my life. I didn't exactly know what that truly meant. I
Mhm.
just knew that if I kept going on this path, there would be an emptiness waiting for me
Right.
somewhere.
Right.
So I start going to the church, and then eventually I get baptized. When I get baptized afterwards, I made this silent commitment to God. I said to God, whatever you want me to do, I will do it.
Wow.
But here's the caveat.
Yeah.
It can't be me saying, I can do that.
Yeah.
It has to be somebody coming up out of the blue saying, Shawn, can you do this?
Mhm.
Because then I know it's from you. It's not
Right.
being driven by me.
Right.
When you make a commitment with God, trust, believe, and know He will keep you to it.
Oh, yes. Oh,
So
yes.
here I am now, a new person in Christ, just learning about the church, getting deeper into Bible studies. And I started my first ministry. And my first ministry happened to be children's ministry.
Mhm.
Again, God sort of brought me around full circle where I was turned away as a child. Now I'm helping children
Wow.
learn about Jesus.
Yes.
I didn't realize it at the time. I'm just thinking, hey, I'm helping out the church because someone asked me to do
Yeah.
children's ministry. And then as I was doing children's ministry, I had this burning desire to know more about God. And the only way I could understand to know more about God is to know more about His Word. So I'd ask people, if you want to study your Bible more deeply, what what programs are there out there? What
Mhm.
what Bible studies can I use? And I was always asking, I'd ask a pastor, I'd ask an elder, and I was always very passionate about trying to know more about
Mm,
God's word. And I think part of that was the call from God because
yeah,
he was preparing me for something that I wasn't ready for.
right.
And I truly believe God calls us without us knowing the full scope. Because if he showed it
That's right.
all to us, we'd be like, I'm out of here.
We're running up the other
That's
direction.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm now studying the Bible more. I'm working in children's ministry. Then somebody in the church says, Hey, Sean, can you do um, a spiritual gifts assessment? So I'm like, I know nothing about that.
Mhm.
Oh, I made that commitment to God. Sure, I can. So it meant I had to do more Bible study. I had
Yeah,
to find out what spiritual gifts were. I
yeah.
had to figure out how do you do a workshop. And that was my actual first workshop that I did for God. Again, I'm not thinking God's calling me to any ministry.
Mhm,
I just think he's calling me to help out around the church,
mhm.
right? That's what a good member should do, help out around the church.
Right.
So I did that. And I said, well, as any good instructor does, you test your materials out on yourself. So I did the spiritual gifts assessment. And guess what my assessment came out to be? What was my strongest spiritual gift?
Sharing Jesus.
That's right.
Yeah.
It turned out I was called to be a pastor.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
of course, my mind is like, I'm a consultant. I'm making money. I'm doing all
Yeah.
this stuff. So I'm like, no, 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 no. Let me try it again. Right.
Mhm.
And of course, it still comes out that way. But I set that all aside
Yeah.
because I'm thinking, no, God's just calling me to help out around the
Yeah.
church, not to be a pastor. I don't have those skills.
Mm,
So I keep on this path. But that desire to know more, to be able to work more in the church
right.
was always persistent, always persistent. So then what happened was I said, you know what, I want to know about evangelism. And the Ontario conference, the home conference where my church was, had a
Mhm.
program that allowed people to learn about how to be an evangelist, a lay evangelist.
Right.
So I took that program, I finished it, I did my first evangelistic series. Actually, before then, I forgot. I was actually asked by a pastor to do a sermon, a
Mm,
week of prayer sermon. Now, for me, week of prayers are very like serious things. And I'd never done a sermon in my life.
yeah.
I told my wife, sweetie, I got to do it because I made this covenant with God,
Mhm,
but I got no clue what I'm doing. She said, just pray about it and you just write it and then you prepare it before me. So that's what I did.
mhm.
And she said, I think you're ready. And I'm like, well, but pastors make appeals.
Yeah.
I've never done that before. How am I going to do that? I'm not a pastor. She said, sweetheart, when you get there, after you're finished, close your eyes and talk about the people and as God is putting it into your heart. Okay,
Mm,
so God had called me to do this. I can't turn it down, but trust me, there's a part of me that just wanted to run the other way.
right.
I
Right.
stand up there in front of the pulpit and I start out and I do my thing and I'm not doing this because this is exactly how I felt,
Yeah.
shaken. I got through it. I closed my eyes and I started doing an appeal for the wellness of the people, for the people that were hurting, for the people that were struggling, for the people looking to get closer with God.
Mhm.
And when I opened my eyes, the entire church was there.
Wow.
And I vividly remember saying, Sean, keep your mouth closed. Because I was just like, I
Mm,
couldn't believe what God had done through me.
right.
Now, for a lot of people, that would be a sign, but I'm hard ears, right?
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Lord, for this opportunity. But I'm just helping out around the church.
Yeah.
Again, the burning desire, I started to do my first evangelistic series, and that went well. And then I was being asked to preach in different places. Again, I'm just thinking God has called me to help out.
Yeah.
And a pastor said to me, Sean, sometimes the call to ministry is not necessarily the one that you hear, but the one people around you see.
Mm,
And I was like, wow, that's deep and profound.
yeah.
But I'm a consultant. I'm making money. I got a good life here. What's going on, right? I was walking in a grocery store And at that time, my life was pretty busy. So I'd like to go to grocery stores late at night,
Hmm.
because it's quiet.
Peace and quiet.
Exactly. You
Yep,
can
I
you
hear
can
you.
you can compare the calories and read all those
That's
kind of
right.
things.
Yeah.
And so I'm walking in the store, and a guy comes up to me, one of the store people. Are you a pastor? Out of the blue, I don't know this person.
Right.
No, I'm not a pastor. Really? I mean, he's seriously, he's looking, really?
Yeah.
Because you look like a pastor.
Wow.
I'm hearing pastor, 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 and I'm still not hearing it.
Right.
But God works with us with how our mind works.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows that I was a person interested in learning more about the Bible. And so he kept that burning desire there.
Hmm.
And so I said, you know what? I've done a lay evangelism course. I've done this Bible study on myself. I really need to find something that will take me to the next level. So I started looking for schooling.
Hmm.
Now, I'm a consultant, so I have a full-time job. So I was looking for something I could do in the part-time.
Right.
I looked at every university in the Toronto area, a few a little further. I looked at Adventist universities. I couldn't find anything. Had this stack
Hmm.
of programs that I'd looked at. Told my wife, I don't know. I know I need to know more, but I can't find anything that
Right.
will work with my schedule. My wife said, don't worry, sweetie. Let's just pray about it.
Mm.
I mean, I am so blessed that I have Leanne in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, she is a very grounded woman. Um, she has served in every role in the church except pastor and elder.
Hmm.
And, she's a woman of deep spiritual faith. And I think, well, and not that I think, she saw it in me, but she didn't want to say it to me lest I, run from God.
Right.
So she said, let's just pray about it. So I prayed. We prayed about it. And then the next day, out of the blue, I get an email from a pastor. He says, hey, Shawn, I think you might find this interesting. I click on the link, and it's for Andrews University Masters of Pastoral Ministry.
Yes.
And I'm like, what? I looked for this and I didn't see this. So I call them up and I say, hey, you guys have the best program that nobody can find. Because
That's it.
I looked through all the website, I
Yeah.
couldn't find it.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, we're working on that. We're trying to fix that up. So I
Mhm.
told them my interest. They talked a little bit about my background. They say, yeah, you should apply. You should apply. So, I applied. And you know how it is. When you apply for university, it takes a few months.
Mhm.
So I put off my application and I decided to wait. But, I'm a keener. So I'm looking at the program that I will be taking. And I realized, oh, if I miss this one starting up in a month's time, that's going to set my whole program back.
Right.
I'm like, I'm telling my wife, I don't know if I want to be set back that far.
Mhm.
I got things to do. I'm a consultant. I got business, all this kind of stuff. She says, sweetie, why don't you just go on faith? But I'm not signed up. Like, if I do that, all those courses might be lost, right? Like,
Right.
it'd be a waste of my time. Just go on faith. So we prayed, and the Andrews University was having this course as an extension at Burman University, which is our university here in Canada,
Yeah.
in Alberta. So I packed my stuff up. I set aside all my consulting work. So I had the 2 week, 3 week lead time,
Mhm.
and I went. And I sat down in the class, and they're like, welcome to whatever the class was. I don't remember what it is. And they give out the forms as they always do, write your name, your student number, all that stuff. So, well, I had a name. I wrote that down. For the student number, I remember looking at it, and I just did a smiley face
That's good.
because I didn't have anything, right?
Right. Right.
So I give it back and we start the course, and I'm really enjoying what I'm learning. And then about 2 or 3 days into it, my wife calls me up, says, hey, Shawn, check your email. I'm like, yeah, yeah. What, client? No, no, no. Check your email. And I checked my email. And when I looked at it, I had got accepted into Andrews University.
Mhm.
Like, normally any university application takes months.
Right.
It was like weeks, if that, if
Mhm.
that. And then it was that moment where all these seeming coincidences, you should be a pastor. you know, me praying and opening my eyes and people are there, the work that I was doing with the kids, all of that, all of a sudden it clicked.
Yeah.
My ears were opened, so to speak. You know,
Hmm.
the Apostle Paul, scales dropped from his eyes. My
Right.
ears were open. And
Yeah.
I heard that God was calling me to pastoral ministry.
Fantastic.
After that, it was a no brainer because I knew it was his call.
Mhm.
I started unwinding my company. And I said to my wife, I said, it does not matter whether or not I get employed as a pastor. God's called me to it,
Mhm.
and I'm going to do it no matter what. And
Yeah.
that's my journey.
Shawn, we used to take classes together out at
Yes,
yes.
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
same
Yeah.
program and all that
Yes.
stuff. And I remember you
Yeah.
telling me your story and what you
Hmm.
did, and I was just like, wow, that's
Hmm.
to see God's leading in your life,
Hmm.
and moving you to where He wanted you. And one
Hmm.
of the things that I really appreciated that you said in your story is God doesn't just call you once.
Yeah.
He will bring other people in your life repeatedly
Yeah.
to mention the same thing over and over again,
Yeah.
especially our spouses,
Yes.
especially to move us to say because
Yeah.
God does he just doesn't call once.
Yeah.
He will repeat the call over and over again to
Yeah.
get into what do you call it? Hard ears?
Hard ears.
Hard
Yes.
ears.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Were there ever moments of hesitation or fear as you got deeper into ministry?
So after I decided to become a pastor,
Hmm.
I will honestly say no. There were moments where I was thinking, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
But because I knew God called me, the only option I had was to be straight on my knees. And so I'd ask God, and sometimes the answer wouldn't come. So I would struggle through whatever that ministry moment was.
Right.
But the answer always eventually came. And so he opened up a door. He showed me new ways of doing things. He brought people into my life.
Hmm.
So I reached a point where because I knew he called me, it was like, I'm just going to keep following the path. In fact, I actually sort of described my ministry experience like this to people that don't necessarily know the whole process of walking with God.
Hmm.
I say, God comes up in a car, says, Shawn, get in the back seat. I get in the back seat. He drives me somewhere. He says, get out and do ministry there until I come and I pick you up again.
Hmm.
I don't know where I am. All I know is God's dropped me off here.
Yeah.
So I do what I can with what I have, praying and asking. And then eventually God comes around again. Get in the back seat. We got somewhere else to go.
Wow.
And I've found that my ministry's been like that because the things that I've experienced,
Yeah.
places that I've gone, things that I've done. I mean, I tell people I really enjoyed my consulting life, but I have such joy being a pastor,
Right.
and I would not trade it for anything in the world.
Yeah. It's amazing to see what God has done to lead you to where He has brought you here.
Mhm.
It's been a pleasure having you, hearing your story about there. And I look forward to our second episode where we'll explore how this unique journey has prepared you for your new chapter in Hope Channel Canada
Yeah.
that they're on. So that's amazing. It's amazing the journey God calls us on.
Amen.
It's never boring and
That's
it's
right.
always exciting. So thank you,
Absolutely.
Shawn.
Thank you, Paul.
Have you been moved by this story and feel inspired to help us to continue bringing these impactful moments to life? Your support is essential for us to keep showcasing the volunteers making a difference. If you'd like to contribute to the production of Hope Channel Canada and its ministries, it's simple. Visit agentsofhope.ca, where you'll find various ways to donate by credit, debit, Google Pay, Apple Pay, or send an e-transfer to Agents of Hope at hopetv.ca. Prefer mailing a check? Send it to Hope Channel Canada at 1148 King Street East, Oshawa, Ontario, L1H 1H8. For a more personal connection, call us at 1 855 4 HOPE TV. That's 1 855 446 7388. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube channel, Hope Channel Canada, and click the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode. You can also watch the show on multiple platforms: hopetv.ca, cable TV, the Roku app, and the Hope Channel app. Are you looking for answers to life's most profound questions? Hope Study provides free online Bible courses that cover essential topics, all at your own pace and from the comfort of your own home. One of our enriching courses, The Unlimited Power of Prayer, invites you to discover the remarkable world of prayer. Here, talking with God is not just a boring routine, but a sincere conversation with the source of love and wisdom. This study will deepen your understanding of prayer's incredible power to help you build a stronger connection with God. Signing up is easy and completely free at hopestudy.ca. Begin your journey today and feel free to share this valuable resource with anyone else seeking answers. Uncover life's answers. Visit hopestudy.ca and start your journey today.